I'd like to look at graphing piecewise functions. And so first I'm going to come over and look at a piecewise function. And so let's look at if we have m of x is equal to, and we're going to do this in the three-part one. If we have negative 3x plus 7 when x is less than or equal to a negative 4, then we have an x, we'll go with negative x squared plus 2 when x is between negative 4 and 2. And we're going to go with the square root of, actually we'll go with the negative square root of x minus 1 when x is greater than or equal to 2. So we have these three different parts for a piecewise function. When we are looking at wanting to graph a piecewise function or even try to look at what a piecewise function is, we want to kind of draw a number line and look at these domain restrictions. So we have a restriction at negative 4 and we have a restriction at 2. So those are our cutoff points. And so anything less than negative 4 is going to use this first equation. So because this tells me x less than or equal to negative 4, I use this first part of the equation. So x less than or equal to negative 4, I'm going to be using 3x plus 7. So think about negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, any of those I would be plugging into this part of the equation. Anything between negative 4 and 2, because the x is between negative 4 and 2 here, I'm going to be using a negative x squared plus 2. So I'm going to put it here. And so that's negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, and 1. Okay, all of those values I would be using this negative x squared plus 2. For anything greater than or equal to 2, I'm going to use this negative square root of x minus 1. So everything over here, I will use negative square root of x minus 1. That's going to include 3, 4, 5, and so forth. Okay, it's going to go off to infinity. On the left side, we continue off to negative infinity. So we now know kind of what we would have on our graph. So if you think about a number line or our graph, so think about negative 4. So here, we're going to have that first part of the graph right here. And then in between negative 4 and positive 2 is going to be that second part of the graph. And then the third part of the graph will be right here. So we have those three different portions of the graph. What we need to do is we need to figure out where these points would lie or what these graphs would actually do. We want to find an XY table for each portion of the graph. You always want to use the cutoff points. So this one has a cutoff point at negative 4. you need to determine if this cutoff point is going to be an open or closed circle. And that's going to be determined by these symbols here. The symbols that will have a closed circle are those that have the equal to parts. The ones that have strictly less than or greater than will have the open circles. So if you see this or this, those will be closed. If it has this or this, those will be open circles. So this -4 on this particular portion is going to be a closed circle. And then I can use -5, -6 here. In the center, my XY table, I know I have to use 4, I know I have to use 2, because those are my two end points. At each of those end points, they are both going to be open circles, because neither one of them have the equal to portion. Then I can use, say, 0, 1, -1, something like that. Anytime you have a square or something, you need to make sure that you get a little bit of both sides there. And then for this last part, again, I need to use that 2 because that's my end point here. This one will be a closed circle. And then I can use 3, 4, 5, and so forth. So then I'm going to plug in these numbers into my equation. So I'm going to plug in a -4. -3 times -4 would be 12. 12 plus 7 is 19. -5 times a -3 is -15. Plus 7 would be a positive 22. I don't know why I said 21. That should be a positive 22. And then -6 times -3 is 18. Plus 7 would be 25. So I have 3 points there. Then here, we have to be careful here because this is an opposite of -4 squared plus 2. So a -4 squared is a positive 16. Opposite of positive 16 is -16. -16 plus 2 is actually going to give me a -14. -1 squared plus 2. -1 squared is 1. Opposite of that is -1. -1 plus 2 is 1. 0 squared is 0. Opposite of that is still 0. Plus 2 is 2. This will be a 1. 2 squared is 4. So that makes that a -4. Plus 2 will be a -2. And you can always check these in your calculators. Plugging in a 2 here, we get 2 minus 1 is 1. Square root of 1 is 1, and so that's going to be a -1. 3 minus 1 is 2, so I get a negative square root of 2. 4 minus 1 is 3, so I get negative square root of 3. 5 minus 1 is 4, so I actually get a -2 here. So now we're going to graph this. And I'm going to go back to my graph paper here. And we're going to try to graph these. So at -4, I'm at +19. And I'm actually going to count by 2s on this because we're so far up. So I'm actually going to erase, we'll count by 1s on this. So I'm going to say that this is -2, -4, -6, 2, 4, 6. But this is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. And this will be -2, -4, -6, -8, -10, 12, and 14. This way we can at least get it all on our page. So at -4, I'm at +19. So this will be here. At -5, I'm at +22. And at -6, I'm at +25. And so I draw my line. That would be my green line. That's that first line. Okay. Then my purple line is going to be an open circle at -4, -14. And then at -1, I'm at 1. At 0, I'm at +2. At 1, I apologize. That should be up here. There we go. And then at 2, I'm at -2 with an open circle. So I've got this parabola going. Okay? And so we look like this. Then for the last part of my graph, at 2, I'm at didn't mean to erase that. I'm actually going to put it up here. So then at 2, I'm at -1. And at 5, I'm at -2. And my others are the square roots, so they're at decimals. And it would look like this. So now I have my graph of my piecewise function. You'll notice that my domain would go from -infinity to +infinity. Now my range does not. My range would go, this would actually keep going down, so it would actually go from -infinity to 2, and then from 19 to +infinity, so we would have a couple of different ranges. But when you're drawing piecewise functions, you want to kind of make yourself XY tables with those cutoff points, okay? So pay attention to these domain restrictions. Practice a couple of these and let me know if you have questions.